everyone, Sage Popham here, founder of the School of Evolutionary Herbalism, and it's Thursday, Jupiter Day, so I thought I'd take a little time to share with you some dynamics around Jupiter. So Jupiter is considered classically the king of the planets, the king of the gods, and it's the largest planet in our solar system. Jupiter is huge. I mean, literally, if you took all of the mass in our solar system, except for the sun, and rolled it all up into a ball, Jupiter would still be bigger than that. So this is a massive planet, has multiple moons in its orbit. And in medical astrology, we see that Jupiter's primary organ rulership is the liver. And the liver is a really important organ in our bodies. It's primarily literally, our liver touches everything that we put into our body, everything that we put into our mouth, any food, any medicine, any plants, anything that enters our body, our liver ultimately has to process and detoxify and kind of package and tag and ship out through the rest of the body. It has just multiple metabolic functions and physiological roles in maintaining the homeostasis of the body. And so the liver is super, super important, and we see many of our liver-ruled remedies are also governed by Jupiter. And based on Jupiter's relationship to Sagittarius, there's also a relationship to arterial circulation. So Jupiter has a lot to do with the circulation of the blood through the arteries of the circulatory system. So more of that active, dynamic aspect of circulation comes under rulership of this planet. And one of the things that we'll see in Jupiter, people with a strong Jupiter in their chart, oftentimes is there's just a tendency towards excess, like an excessive consumption of things, whether that's super sweet rich foods or whether that's drugs and alcohol. Jupiter just likes excess. And, you know, I like to think of it as the principle of expansion, right? So Jupiter has a lot to do with, it's the gas planet. So it's this expanding and radiating out. And we'll see that oftentimes in people with strong Jupiters, that Jupiter on the ascendant or just a very strongly placed Jupiter in the chart. They can be very prone to obesity, just weight gain, what in the physiomedicalist tradition would be considered damp stagnation tissue states, where there's kind of too much coming in and not kind of overwhelming the body, and an inability to effectively detoxify and metabolize the standard physiological waste products. And so we can see that congesting the liver, congesting the digestive system, creating what in the old days they would call bad blood, which is basically a systemic level of toxicity. And you oftentimes see that reflected in the skin, like acne or eczema or just other chronic skin problems. But ultimately, they all come back to the liver. And so one of my favorite Jupiter plants is burdock, Arctium lapa, and this is one of the most just universally used alternative plants in traditional Western herbalism and folk practices. It's just this incredible alternative remedy, and alternative basically means that it facilitates in the body's natural metabolic detoxification processes. It's a really big herbal action. There's a lot of different types of alternatives, but burdock is a great example in the way that it really facilitates with liver detoxification, purification of the bloodstream. It has a high amount of inulin, which actually helps to feed the probiotic bacteria in the gut biome. So all the beneficial bacteria in our intestinal tract are fed by burdock. And so we see also that Jupiter dynamic in the morphology of the plant. And it's just a big plant, right? These big, thick, deep tap roots. The leaves of burdock are very large, broad, and kind of rough in texture. Those are some really common Jupiter dynamics, as well as oiliness. So it's a very oily root as the main part of the herb used. The seeds are also used, but they're used a little bit differently. So we see that burdock root is a really awesome example of the Jupiter quality, just based on its morphology, its organ affinities, and its underlying actions that it works on in the body and the tissue states, and a lot of the common energetics and pathologies that it's great for. The other remedy I wanted to talk about with you today is dandelion. Dandelion root primarily, we see having a strong affinity for the liver. The leaves do as well, but they tend to be more of a kidney affinity and diuretic in action. But with the dandelion root, we see again a very strong correspondence to the liver. It's a strong bitter tonic herb, so anything that tastes bitter on your tongue is going to really stimulate the whole digestive system, but primarily also having an impact on the liver's capacity to manufacture bile, the gallbladder's ability to release bile into the duodenum, to facilitate in digesting fats and oils. And Jupiter rules fat and oil and adipose tissue in general. So we see a really interesting correspondence with just bitters in general, but dandelion more specifically in the way that it's really good for people that have a hard time digesting and absorbing fats and oils, and tend to have what would be considered like a toxic level of heat in their system. So these bitter tonic remedies are typically universally very cooling, very draining, very drying. They have a detoxifying effect upon the liver and oftentimes other organs of the body. And one of the ways I really like the way that dandelion reflects this Jupiter correspondence is in the seeds. You think of when dandelion goes to seed and it has those light, fluffy, kind of aerial seed dispersion technology, I guess, for lack of a better word. I can't remember the exact botanical phrase for that type of seed, but you know, you think of when you were a kid, you know, you take the dandelion and you blow on them and the seeds kind of float through the air like that, and it's a great representation of Jupiter, but also of Sagittarius, right? It's that long distance travel, and how those dandelions just, they disperse themselves throughout space very easily. They don't just create a seed and drop to the ground. They kind of have this aerial dynamic, and again, Jupiter being the gas planet, and just about expanding and radiating out, that dandelion seed is a really cool morphological signature of Jupiter. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about astrology and herbalism, head over to astrologicalherbalism.com, where I've got a 3 free-part video series going on. I said free part, didn't I? A free 3-part video series going on at astrologicalherbalism.com, where I'm going into this relationship between astrology and herbalism, and how those two areas of study can be woven together in a way to create a truly universal system of herbalism that is not just physiologically healing and rejuvenative, but also enables us to work with plants to facilitate our spiritual growth and evolution. So these videos are only going to be up for a short-term period of time, so head over there, put your name and email in, and I'll send you some emails with some free videos. So thanks so much, everyone. Happy Thursday. Take care.